Right, gentlemen, it's been a long but insightful day. A lot of discussion on the powertrain sort of mix, and obviously, you cannot conclude that day without EVs, electric vehicles. What the panel, all panels before have always been saying is perhaps like the end goal, the North Star. With that being said, let's not discuss, the future of EVs or how it will play a role. We know that it will, and a significant one at that. So let's focus our discussion on what are some of the challenges and how we can sort of overcome this. Because of all the powertrains that we've spoken of, this is the newest in terms of the modern era. Technically, if we go back, yes, EVs in fact predate ICE, but from the modern era, it is a very new technology. So I'd like to start with you, sir. Given that you are on the task force, what is it that you think that the government, both state and center, can do to remove these hurdles? Because to begin with, it is an expensive, right now at least, expensive technology to shift to. So it would require support. What do you think, beyond just tax ops, do you think there are several other steps that can be done from the government side?
Yeah, this is something that with the ANRF and also state governments, we are talking. See, the number of OEMs who have invested in the EV sector has been pretty good. And initially it was quite difficult, but so many OEMs have invested. God bless them. But when it comes to tier 1, tier 2, on the critical components and the raw materials, the amount of investments have been still not to the level we need to. People talk about 70% of two-wheelers, electric two-wheelers being made, sold in the country being made in Tamil Nadu. But the sad news is 80% of the components that go into those two-wheelers are coming from outside the state, most of them from outside the country. So this is definitely an area where the government needs to focus, and that's where we have been advising, we have been doing a lot of efforts to try to change that. And also the amount of technologies that are available out there are more suited for many other countries, but not necessarily fine-tuned for the Indian conditions, for the local conditions. So that's another area where we have been really trying to develop a lot of technologies, try to get support. We are in discussions with Niti Aayog and ANRF and saying, how can we incentivize, move the incentives to locally develop technologies in these critical component areas? We can talk more as we go through the discussion, but I'll stop with this.
Okay, thank you for that. And yeah, that's an interesting thought, incentivize, like you said, local production. And I guess by local production, you mean not just at a tier 1, but a tier 2 and tier 3 as well, right?
Yeah, clearly, tier 1 and tier 2, definitely immediately, and a lot of raw materials, including recycling. Otherwise, what we are going to run into is a lot of raw material-based cost issues will continue to come, whether it is on the battery side or on the railroad side when it comes to motors and so many other components. For example, copper. As more and more electric vehicles come into play, copper is going to be an issue. We don't produce copper in this country, right? Not as much. Most of it is imported. So these are issues.
Right. So, with that said, I'm going to move right across to the other end of this panel, Vigneshwar, sir. I mean, from the consumer point of view, given that you are in touch with the dealer network, let's say, the government has already started some of these incentives to push demand. We just heard a few more ideas that could come. Do you think, or rather, how long do you see it would take for it to get to a pull where consumers would start, pulling and demanding EVs? Or are you seeing that already happening within the dealer network? How long do you think you need this support?
The support has to exist because right now as dealers, we are technologically agnostic because we don't know which horse is actually going to win. Or we don't know whether it's going to be horses for courses. For different uses, probably a different technology is going to be used. But however, we do find that it's quite important that we persist at all these technologies and not give up on any one of them. EV perhaps is one of those most celebrated horses. And we really need to make sure that we get the whole environment ready for it. The whole ecosystem needs to be ready for it. You're talking about manufacturing. We are talking about dealerships being ready to handle these vehicles and the customers. We are talking about the charging infrastructure being set up everywhere. So there has to be this ecosystem which is being created. And at dealerships, it again depends whether you're talking about a three-wheeler, a large commercial vehicle, a small commercial vehicle, a two-wheeler, and within a two-wheeler, whether it's a scooterette or a scooter or a bike, a motorbike. So we've been seeing that a large portion of the three-wheelers has already been shifting to the last mile mobility and then EVs. We're looking at a large portion of the two-wheeler scooter market going towards the EVs, and we envisage that by 2030, perhaps most of the scooter market would be EVs. Motorbikes, there are a couple of very nice companies who have been investing in the motorbikes. We're looking at PVs, where probably the passenger vehicle is a limelight hogger in our industry. And even there, it's only at about 3%, the penetration. It hasn't grown massively in the last 2 years. So with more products coming in, there are more OEMs who have actually put out EV products. Probably this would create the pull effect. So more options available there with exciting pricing, exciting features, perhaps would bring more customers onto the EV platforms.
Right. So, I'd like to move this discussion to you, Dinesh, because, Vignesh just spoke about two-wheelers, being essentially sort of right now leading the EV switch over. Yes, and like you correctly said, it's scooters that are the majority right now within the two-wheeler fold. Do you see that this would remain the pattern, or will motorbikes, sort of catch up, or are scooters sort of better suited to being electrified?
Sure. No, amazing question. So I think one of the main reasons that you have a lot of electric scooters and not electric motorcycles is just because there's no product in the motorcycle space today, right? There are extremely few products, and even those in extremely different categories, either very expensive or not practical enough to replace let's say a Splendor or a Pulsar or a Royal Enfield, and we believe that the reason that it doesn't exist is that if you make an electric motorcycle on the same platform as that of an electric scooter, it has its disadvantages and it doesn't perform as good. And that's why we're here innovating on powertrain technology for electric motorcycles. We're building motorcycles on high voltage, right? So I think, I personally believe motorcycles there's going to be significant adoption in EV motorcycles as well. And I think bringing motorcycle products or electric motorcycles into the market will actually accelerate EV adoption. If you're at 20% in electric scooters and 0% in electric motorcycles, it's definitely just because there's no product. There's no reason to believe that motorcycles will also people won't also adopt electric motorcycles, right? I think you really need to put products out there for people to start buying.
Right. So you're saying it is something that will happen as soon as the products come in.
Right. Today, 70% of ICE is motorcycles and 30% is scooters. It's not going to be, pretty sure it's not going to be the same, but I really doubt it'll be less than 50-50. So I think electric motorcycles will come in, probably not as significant as how it was in the ICE era, but definitely an equal share is what I think it will have. Yeah.
And moving on, Mr. Girgaonkar, commercial vehicles, also another segment that has taken to electrification a lot quicker than, let's say, passenger vehicles, which tend to be, the most looked at sometimes, unfortunately so maybe. And do you see within the commercial vehicles sector, the last mile segment as being more promising towards electrification compared to, let's say, the long haul?
See, I think if you just see the product individually, then you'll not get the solution. But let's say if you take a 55-ton product, it is getting sold at 5 places. At one places, daily running is, let's say, 100 kilometers. There, EV is the best solution. For example, ports. For example, mines, where the daily running is 100 kilometers, not more than that.
Fixed route.
Fixed route, and that's what we need to target today. And I think there is no one common solution to all the problems. We need to target those segments, and for us, at Montra, for us, this is the segment which is almost 40% of the total 55-ton market, let's say example. Let us target that first. And as we go along, the technologies will come which will address the long haul as well. That's what my understanding says.
Right. So that's an interesting insight. So basically, look at very targeted segments within, like for example, perhaps even public transport, fixed routes. Would you see that as well as a
Absolutely.
easy
See, that's
electrification?
what I'm saying. It's just matter of time that we start having the swapping.
Okay.
They just take 3 to 4 minutes to swap the battery pack, and then you are ready. And see, it's my understanding, again, in that segment, no, there are other inefficiencies which are there. It's not only the charging time, correct? We create a bow about all these things because it's new, correct? But today the trucks are running at, let's say, 40% of the efficiency. What about 60% of the inefficiency which is already there? So we need to see that in the overall picture. But swapping is there. Going forward, let's say 6 years down the line, you will have a solid state battery which will run for 800, 900 kilometers, and that solves the problem.
Right. So, Karthik, over to you. We've just heard about, let's say, battery swapping, charging. We know that you are one of the largest in India in terms of a charge point operator. Do you see this as a big challenge currently for adoption? And do you think that, charging needs to go down, let's say, fast charging in terms of, time? Or do you see longer range as a solution? What are consumers looking at?
First of all, thank you for having us. In terms of chargers, of course, having faster chargers helps, right? But then the capability of the vehicles to absorb large
Accept
amounts
the
of
charge.
power is something that is still evolving, right? So with the first generation of Tata vehicles, we had sub 1C charge speeds, right? Now we are hitting 1.5, in Mahindra's case, even 2 Cs of charge speeds, right? So I think the charging ecosystem will evolve as the vehicles themselves become capable of taking more power, right? So, and that is one thing. So if you look at cars, for example, the dynamics is quite different for each segment of vehicles, right? If you look at cars alone, only about 20% of charging happens on DC fast chargers, right? So that might be different for trucks, right? So there will be a lot of DC fast charging for trucks. So that's a completely different ecosystem. I think the infrastructure itself will evolve quite different for different segments of the vehicle. If you look at the two-wheelers, they are less reliant on public infra, right? So it is more home charging. They do about less than 100 kilometers is what they do every day. So there is no need for charging apart from home and workplace, right? So mostly that is done. For vehicles, we rarely drive. Probably out of the 365 days in a year, somebody would drive for 10 days or 15 days, a whole stretch of 500 kilometers, right? So it is only during that time you require that quick top-up, right, on a high-speed charger. But if you take something like a commercial vehicle, especially the heavy ones, right, they would be doing a lot of kilometers, and they would definitely require to be turned around very quickly, right? So they cannot rely on just overnight charging, right? So they definitely need endpoint and starting point charging, apart from that end-road charging also, which needs to be really, really high powered, right? So I think the charging ecosystem will evolve in tandem in a calibrated manner with the evolution of vehicles, right? So today, if I have to put a 1 megawatt charger, there aren't vehicles that can take that kind of power, so it'll be a stranded investment at this point in time. But as you start seeing more vehicles, I think BYD caught a lot of headlines in the last
Recently, yes.
week, right? And that shows that their batteries have become capable, their technology, thermal management systems have become capable of accepting huge amounts of power, right? Now, to deliver that power is not a challenge itself. Once the vehicles become are demanding that much power, then for us to deploy that charger, we need support from the grid side and all that, but the equipment in itself is not too big a challenge. It is available. I think MCS is a new standard. Megawatt charging standards has been established as part of the Charan thing, and I think trucks in UK or Europe have already started using megawatt chargers, right? So I think the technology exists. It's just we need the vehicles to become capable of accepting that huge power.
Right. So what you're saying essentially, like you spoke of Mahindra, moving up to almost 2C in terms of charging, faster charging speeds. You could then theoretically even go with smaller batteries, right? You could have a potential cost savings there.
Exactly. See, what happens with high C rates is that your requirement to carry huge amount of battery reduces. Right? So going back to the same analogy, right? So out of the 365 days, a typical driver does no more than 20 days of long distance driving. So you don't need a huge battery for the, let's say, the 340 days in a year or 330 days in a year. It's only the 15, 20, 25 days that you do that extra kilometers, you require a huge battery. You don't need to be carrying that battery if your car can do, let's say, in 15 minutes, if the car can soak up 100 kilometers of driving range, which is, by the way, most vehicles today can do. 15 minutes of DC fast charging can add 100 kilometers of range. Right now, if you triple that or let's say double that, then it's more than enough, right?
Right.
Yes.
Right. So moving to you, Mr. Aravapalli, having heard about that, what is your view on manufacturers getting to their systems, their electronics and electrical systems, getting to these higher charging speeds?
See, the vehicles are being built with the very high-end and latest architectures. Architecture is one of the backbone for the entire thing. One is the charging part of it. While vehicles are being designed from the day one, gone from those traditional architectures of like a distributed architecture, where we used to have one ECU connected with through LIN or hardwired some sensors, and few ECUs together connected through a kind of a CAN or CAN-FD. But now there are domain-based architectures. There are zonal-based architectures. So domain architecture, zonal architectures, these are definitely used by most of the EVs today. One is this charging part, what we discussed. The other one is to get the other functionalities, because the amount of electronics involved in these high-end EVs is phenomenally high, and the data exchange is very high. Therefore, the communication is also we need a very high processing power, high bandwidth, so therefore the flex rays are used, etc. Therefore, the architecture is playing one critical role. The second part is most of the hardware are being developed in a manner that it supports this kind of a charging scenarios. And I would say, like, going forward, the software-driven vehicle is going to be the answer. And again, E&D architecture is the backbone for the software-driven vehicles. And a lot of work is happening on software-driven vehicles. It is one is this part of it again. Over and above that, the software-driven vehicles are going to remain updated throughout the life cycle of the life cycle of the vehicle, because there is a continuous over-the-air updates of the softwares or functions and features continuously updated through the either the over-the-air feature or the overall architecture that is benefiting them. Therefore, the vehicles are definitely getting prepared to this level of whether anything with regards to over-the-air updates, connectivity, ADAS, or part of autonomous plus charging. Everywhere, everything is being taken care while the architecture is being built.
Right. And just to stay with you, Mr. Aravapalli, the software reliance, or rather, let's say the amount of software that's coming into electric vehicles today is, yes, in a way a good thing. But we also have seen manufacturers, both on the two-wheeler side and on four-wheelers, trip up on software, have issues with software. Right. In fact, a lot of the consumer complaints that are coming in from dealers, from what we hear, is related to software issues. Do you think this is something that will take a long time to address, for manufacturers? I'm talking of in terms of software, not in terms of software in terms of designing the vehicle, but in terms of using the vehicle. Are they getting too complex for consumers? And if so, do you think it's a long road to fix these problems, or is it quick?
No, surely it is not a long road. It's a continuous learning process. I would like to take some examples while I was there as a part of the OEM when we launched one of the leading brands. Today I was in Mahindra when we launched the XUV, which is very well known in the industry. We had quite a number of issues. The same the case with other OEMs, whether it is powertrain or infotainment or connectivity. We are able to manage the validation and verification during testing phase to an extent of say about 98%, 99%. But it's very difficult to get all the scenarios that are being used by the consumer, the customer, in a real world scenario to simulate or to create that kind of test scenario in the lab. Therefore, couple of percentage, 2%, 3% of kind of test situations are missed out. Those are being fixed. If it is software glitch, you are calling it as a software bug that you are going to call it as. But the overall, there is a huge amount of robustness that is being built from the day one with regards to functional safety, because these ISO 26262 plus the other reliability aspects, the other simulation tools that have come in place are making the OEMs to take care right at the design stage, number one. Number two, at the validation and verification, whether it is on the bench or on the vehicle. Number three, small updates over the air. If a couple of issues are found in the field, that can be taken care with the software updates. Most of the vehicles are connected. Therefore, I don't think this is going to be a big problem. But at the same time, the challenges are growing because the amount of electronics increases phenomenally. Every day it is increasing. Millions and millions of software code is coming into picture. Therefore, you continue to have some challenges, they continue to work and they continue to fix. This is a cycle. This is what I feel like.
Right. And obviously it's a cycle, hopefully, that we'll catch up with. Correct. And I think, like you said also, once we have volume, you'll have more users and more case data. And so I'd like to move to Vigneshwar, in terms of the volume. Right now, let's say on the passenger vehicle side, it is only 2 to 3% that we've seen with electric mobility. Do you think, innovative schemes beyond, let's say, support from government, like innovative schemes like the battery as a service that we saw MG, announce. Do you think schemes like these can help our consumers coming to the dealerships asking for these kind of things, or do they just see it as a kind of promotion?
Promotion is a scheme, and a scheme is a promotion, as long as we end up selling the car. But selling the car by giving value to the customer. Whilst I agree with the panelists regarding, all software always carries glitches, we need to understand this is not, a cell phone might carry glitches, but it doesn't go at 200 kilometers per hour, but this one does. So I think as an industry, it's our job to get it right the first time. Of course, improvements can take place, but there are also a lot of places where OEMs have spent billions of dollars and software didn't work for them. A typical group is from Europe, where they right now have really gone the wrong way in terms of architecture, and they're really suffering for it. When it comes to schemes, yes, because promotion schemes, it has to be innovative, because today we're looking at not only the cost of ownership, but also the cost of operations and the cost of acquisition. All these things, still EV has a big mountain to climb when it is facing ICE vehicles. Perhaps the future would be different. I hope it would be different, so that more options and more power to the customer. But given the current situation, I think more innovative schemes need to be done by the industry, by the government, by dealers. All of us need to come together to push this, to give it the head start. I, of course, agree that right now we have the PM eDrive scheme. It was different before this, and we are seeing that the subsidies are dropping. I think that's the right way to go. We can't have subsidies always, but there could be enablers from the government, certain support in infrastructure of chargers which, see, typically I've seen that contactless chargers or chargers without wires work better and they don't fail. At any point of time, right now, 20 to 30% of the EV chargers out there don't work. And most of it is because of cables. So we need to get these, I'm a scuba diver, I'm a master diver. And for us, we talk about fail points. The more fail points we have, the more issues we're going to have at 40 meters. So we need to remove these cables and all that and make these chargers wireless. And we need to really improve our charging. It's not only a problem in India, it's a problem all over the world where chargers fail and where there are long queues at chargers. It's a developed world problem. So for us as a developing world, we probably, it's even more acute for us.
Acute. Right. So, with that, I think the perfect person to also shed more light on this is Karthik. I mean, are you seeing this as a huge problem in terms of failures of chargers, availability of chargers, and things like that? And how are you all addressing this?
Yes. Just to be clear on that point, there are failure rates when it comes to charging. And by and large, the problem is because of interoperability issues. It's more to do with the software than the hardware itself. So at least in our network, we've not had a problem because the cables themselves failed. So it's for us, what we see it as, it is more of a software issue, and it is getting addressed incrementally, right? So we started off in 2020, right? At that time, we had chosen to go with an international brand of chargers, which was considerably more expensive than what was available here. But the only reason we had to take that choice to go the expensive route, because that addressed large part of the interoperability issues, right? So the software on that system was quite strong, and it was more compatible with all the EVs. So that helped us build the brand as a very reliable operator, right? But we did a reassessment sometime in 2023, again, of the hardware that is available in India. What we realized was it has seen a tremendous improvement in terms of interoperability and the quality of the hardware itself. And it was, again, more tuned to Indian conditions, right? Rather than, it was in fact better than what we were buying at that point, right? Internationally. So we made the choice to switch again to have more Indian vendors supply our chargers. Now, as an organization, we are quite obsessed with data, and one of the metrics that we measure to ensure customer experience is the number of failures, right? So today, I can speak for our network, which is the metric that specifically that we measure is how many sessions did start at the first attempt, right? So our number is higher than 80%.
Higher than?
Higher than 80%. So 80% of our sessions start at the first attempt, right? And if you take the second or third attempt, it goes as high as 95%. And we constantly share this data with the auto OEMs. So our understanding and our relationship with Tata Motors, MG, and the others help us share, and even Mahindra, for example, when they did the testing for the 6 and the 9, they had a very extensive tests, and we were exchanging notes on what was happening with our chargers along with them. And there are teething issues, but like I said, it is considerably better than what it used to be, and it is getting rapidly better. Yes.
Right. So, moving to you, in terms of two-wheelers, Dinesh, the charging is primarily at home, right? You're not relying on public charging networks as much, for sure. Do you see a challenge there as well for consumers? Is it difficult for them to get, charging at their homes, or is it far easier given, let's say, for two-wheelers compared to a four-wheeler?
No, sure. I think, like Karthik mentioned, right, it really depends on category of vehicles. It's going to differ from CVs to PVs to two-wheelers. I personally believe that I'd go as high as 97, 98% of all charging of electric two-wheelers is going to happen either at home or at work. However, a significant way to solve the range anxiety problem is not, people actually charging, but having the ability to charge if they run out of charge, right? The biggest worry today is not that they're going to run out of charge. It's just that there are no chargers if they run out of charge, and I think that's the problem that we're at least solving at Rapti, right? We're at Rapti, we become the only electric two-wheelers that can leverage CCS, all of the charges that Karthik setting up or any other CPO setting up today. Today, as an ecosystem for the EV two-wheeler space, there is not one uniform standard or a standard for OEMs to operate, and most OEMs don't even have a proprietary plug. They use the computer plug. I don't know the name of that, but anyway. So I think from a usability point of view, I don't know. There's the percentage of percentage of use of public charging is going to be significantly lesser when you compare it to a passenger car or a commercial vehicle. But just the sheer fact that they are available and you can access them, I think, will in turn drive adoption drastically. And that's also one of the reasons why I believe a separate standard for electric two-wheelers will not work. Because when you clearly know that it's only going to be for emergency use cases and not going to be used on a regular intervals, then utilization is going to become a huge problem. And if you set up a completely new standard for electric two-wheelers, one, obviously you have to get every OEM on board. Second, there's just not going to be enough utilization of these chargers. So that's why we believe that adopting the electric car charger works. Kind of pitching my business here, but yeah, that's essentially what we're trying to do.
No, of course, fair enough. I mean, in fact, that was one of the questions I was going to ask you, because you are, I think, the only two-wheeler brand currently who has adopted the CCS to one of the very few charger standard. Having said that, I'd like to ask you, sir, do you think, therefore, that the government needs to mandate a certain charging standard for two-wheelers? And if that's the case, do you think the four-wheeler standard, which is the CCS2, is the way to go?
I think there are two things that the government needs to do, and that's what we are thinking on. One, like Arjun said, we want to make sure that there are enough fast chargers available, even if they're not fully utilized. In fact, how can we subsidize fast chargers, enough of them, so that there are enough of them available, because we know that they won't be used, but they're necessary to address the range anxiety and ensure adoption of electric vehicles. Hopefully, with more and more CVs coming into play, that they will also be used. But initially, we need to subsidize so that people know that they're available. They may not use them a lot. And that needs to be, maybe the amount of subsidy that we're providing on charging may go towards that. Second thing that we are looking at urban areas where people are living a lot is to have opportunity ubiquitous charging. Most of them carry a portable charger, and I'm also encouraging, from a technology point of view, to integrate an onboard charger, which is essential in the long run. Even for wireless charging and everything, you need an onboard charger. And you can integrate that with your motor controller or something like that, because it already has MOSFETs, and you'll be able to save a significant amount of money and still have an onboard charger. Then all you need is a cable and a 3-pin plug everywhere. And again, we are encouraging the government to provide in the office spaces, in the workspaces, in the malls, everywhere, a 3-pin plug. It's not a fast charger, but it's an opportunity ubiquitous charger. Wherever you're parking, you pick up a charge. And power is not very expensive. So these are two initiatives that the government is pushing for at this time.
Right, and technically, I mean, you can even charge a four-wheeler at although glacial space. You could do it.
You can pick up 30, 40 kilometers, and you don't drive more than that. Or maybe 100 kilometers over 2 hours of him parking. Clearly, that's an opportunity.
Right. So, yes, Karthik, you have something to add?
Just add quickly to that. See, I think for scooters or two-wheelers, three-wheelers, and cars, the bulk of the charging happens at home, right? So I think when we talk about the ecosystem, what everybody has in mind is the big, shiny DC fast chargers, right? But the necessity or the need is to have home chargers, right? So I think that is where it is underappreciated area. I think people need to focus on that. Government needs to come out with clear building codes where they mandate for places like airports, apartment buildings, for commercial complexes to have a certain number of AC charges, not DC, but AC charges where people can get an opportunity charge, right? So it's called, the term is energy grazing, right? So it's just like wherever you're parked, right? So if you take a typical car, out of the 24 hours, if the car is running for 4 hours, that's a very high utilization, right? Which means it is parked somewhere for 20 hours a day, right? And all that 20 hours is an opportunity to charge, right? You don't need a DC fast charger to do that.
True. You can.
I want to quickly add one to that. I think talked about home charging. I will also add depot charging for commercial vehicles. But more importantly, in discussions with Tamil Nadu government realizes that power is more available and less expensive during the day and very expensive during the night. So they have introduced time of day charging rates. But what is now difficult, and this is what we are working towards now, is at your workplaces, we want to be able to introduce and incentivize charging at your workplaces. We'd like to see people charging their vehicles more at workplaces during the day rather than at evening, and add on to your AC power load and everything else. That is something that we are really pushing for. I just wanted to add that.
No, thank you so much for that. That's a very interesting actually point. And in fact, at Autocar, we have done exactly that. We have our chargers at the office and no one charges at home. so I think we're more or less in sync there. But Mr. Girgaonkar, for you, and I know we're running out of time, but I'll just very quickly get to you because for commercial vehicles, charging, we should also speak about perhaps on the move charging. Do you see that as a possibility in India? Because we have heard the government and our minister speak about, for example, electrified highways. And we've seen these in test at least and in certain pilot launches in Europe, where you have commercial vehicles charging while they move with an overhead line. Do you think that's a viable solution here, something that we can look at?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, there's no reason why it cannot be tested or tried here as well. But for India like country, I think there are some structural challenges which because of our traffic and our road sense, so we cannot have this kind of a separate route for us to have. Maybe we can have some other solution which can be tuned for India conditions, I will say. Europe and these countries are sophisticated and they can afford to have, because you cannot see a vehicle on the kilometers to kilometers on their roads, but so they can have this kind of a charge. But for us, some other solutions can work out in terms of swapping, as I mentioned, one. And some areas where the OEMs, if they take the initiative, morning somebody asked that the OEMs should come together and design something in ICE segment, I think. But ICE, I will say it is more matured and all OEMs have their own strength in that area. But I think for EV, because it's a national cause, I will say. So these are the areas we can come together and have some common areas and see to it that any battery can be charged by any charger, that BMS sharing and all, limited information. And maybe these kind of experts can come in, pitch in, and they will say, okay, we will ensure your confidentiality of your data and it will come to you only. So that kind of a solution will emerge for sure. That's what my understanding says.
Right. No, I think I fully agree with you. We also given our lane sense, keeping dedicated lanes, free of other traffic, non-electrified traffic itself would be a challenge. With that, gentlemen, I would like to just maybe go through the whole panel as we wind down the session. Your concluding thoughts, each of you. What do you think are, let's say, if you were to order the top three, 1, 2, and 3, sort of hurdles that we need to clear on the road to electrification? And maybe we can start with you, Vignesh.
As a dealer, I'm primarily interested in the manpower availability at our dealerships, both sales and service, how well they are trained, how well they are skilled to handle these vehicles and these customers, because it's a very different proposition selling an EV compared to a nice vehicle here. So whether we have the right skill sets to do that is pretty important, and also very important for the after service. The customers would come there, they're completely different beasts, they have different issues with them. diagnosis and how we're able to do it. Of course, for us, infrastructure is a major concern because when we pitch these vehicles being easy to ride and easy to use, one of the first questions is where is the charging infrastructure? So that again is something which is important to us. So I'll probably leave with the two.
Right.
Thank you.
Thanks. Karthik, what about you?
Yeah, I think there needs to be a lot more focus and clarity from the industry. I think I was slightly, to be very frank, taken aback by some of the discussions today because, see, in my opinion, everybody works with limited resources, especially a corporate, a country, right? Everybody, right? So if you have to really split your resources into hybrids, into diesel, into hydrogen, whatever you have it, right? So that really stalls or sort of delays the transition, right? But what I think everybody, without doubt, accepted, at least in most vehicles, is that the eventual destination is going to be electrification, right? It's going to be EVs, right? So most of the discussion or the other powertrains that we are discussing today, it's all transitory, right? So I think if we start lingering too much on other options, should we go this way, that way, I think there is a chance we might lose the direction. I think if at all we have to learn something from China, it is their focus. I think this is something that they had identified a lot longer, a lot before then, a decade before then we realized. And they have put all their resources to it, right, in terms of minerals, in terms of cell manufacturing, in terms of EV manufacturing, even photovoltaics for that matter, right? So I think as a nation, as an industry, we need to have that clarity, right? And if we are all over the place, my feeling is that we could miss the bus, right? So that is something that needs to come from the industry. And obviously, I think this year we've seen a lot more launches. Customers have a lot more options to choose from. At least I'm only talking about the car market, right, obviously. So up until now, it was only Tata, right? So, but this year, I think that is changing to a large extent. I think that is something I would like to see more options for customers to choose. Not drivetrains or powertrains, but more EVs, yeah.
Right, so you're not mincing your words. You're very clear that we should get there and get there in a hurry.
Exactly.
Right. What about you, Mr. Giranga? What are your
I think it both sides, from government side, there should be a little more, if not subsidy direct, somehow I don't believe in that, but they need to create that environment and that push for the industry as well as the individual, those who are buying the vehicles. And from the industry side, I think we need to create multiple options. Let us not say that only one kind of a 256 kilowatt hour battery will solve all the problems. No, I need to have a solution, 400 kilowatt battery. I need to have a swapping battery. I may have to have a tomorrow solution wherein I can give 50% of the battery as a fix and 50% of the, not swapping, but customer can buy based upon his that time's business. Buy in the sense not buy the battery, but take it on the rent for that limited period of time. So I think multiple solution industry needs to understand and start working on that rather than finding with one solution and I should be able to capture the market. I don't think that's the era. Those times has gone now.
Right. Thank you so much, Mr. Aravalli. Your thoughts? What would you like to see addressed?
Yeah. So if not roadblocks or the hardships, I would say like more of suggestions from my side. Number one is a collaborative working, a partnership kind of working. That's missing in the country. What I am trying to say is we all should work together. Could it be OEMs, tier 1s, semiconductor companies, startups, or technology companies? All of them come together to work on various solutions, starting from a chipset design, a new chipset design, making a new application, etc., to the vehicle building. They all have to work together. That's missing in the country. That's very important, number one. Number two, with regards to the capability, the talent and skill building also, we are lagging. As he mentioned, right at the sale point or the dealer point itself, that's missing. At the same time, it is missing even at the design stage, at the vehicle side or manufacturing side. When I say missing, it's not completely missing. We really have to bridge this gap. To bridge this gap, there are a lot of ideas and a lot of suggestions on board. So we really have to go and make some synergies, merge bit of IT related skills with automotive, because it's all more of car and code. It is not any more car and mechanical thing. It's a car plus code. So how do we bridge this IT plus automotive deep expertise or automotive deep domain knowledge, and then bring the talent in line with the expectation? This is the second topic. Third topic is obviously government has to come into a lot of collaboration in a manner that they also act very... See, I have my own personal opinion about something related to infrastructure. Now, where, for example, CNG, it is a big challenge to get CNG, even though it was launched quite some time ago. Same the case should not happen for the charging infra, although we have been talking on charging. So government has to come in and then do whatever is required to make sure that whatever happened in CNG should not happen in the EV space. So the charging infra is the need of the hour. These are the three topics from my
very
side.
interesting. What about you, Dinesh?
I'm sorry, can I add one point before you go to him?
Sure.
See, government, how they can help us in the sense that they can give some indirect benefit to the big corporates, those who are getting into EVs. Let's say you name all the cement manufacturers or port operators. They can give, if you make 100% EV as your all the fleet, some subsidy in their tax. Something like that will help them to adopt that rather than giving direct. Similarly, I strongly think, being the taxpayer fraternity, that for the most of the taxpayers would like to go for EV because they understand that environment-wise it's important. So those who are paying for them, if you are buying for EV, going for EV, something like that, they should get some indirect benefit to those this thing. So this kind of conducive environments, and they need not to do for 100%. For any product to take or start selling on its own is once it crosses that 15% market share. The 16, 17 will come automatically. But till that 15% market share or the numbers, I think this kind of facilitation from the government will help to take up EV to the next level.
Right.
Sorry, I just thought...
No, absolutely. It's a very interesting insight of sharing. I mean, basically what you're saying is to incentivize the operator, the consumer, which will create the pull.
Exactly.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's a bigger good, actually. Let us not talk about only money.
Right,
That's
right. Right, and you,
Sure.
Dinesh.
No, I think I firmly believe that any transition has to be driven by the customer. There's only so much government can do, so much the industry can. I mean, obviously, industry has to produce products, but three items, largely on awareness. One thing, I think, in terms of how products are used and what products even are, people still come up to me and ask, I don't want to go through the hassle of charging my car every day. You don't have to charge your car every day. I charge my car once in 10 days. My car gives me about 300 kilometers. My daily commute is less than 30 kilometers. I charge it once a week, and then that kind of surprises them. People ask me, oh, what happens if after 3 years you have to replace a battery? I don't have to replace a battery in 3 years. It comes with an 8-year warranty, so I'm at least guaranteed for 8 years, right? So that's on products. Second, like Karthik and Thirusa was speaking about, I still have friends where in their apartments, they're just not allowed to put a car charger. And what is a car charger? Essentially a 15 amps plug that you can plug into. I think awareness on that needs to be needs to kind of increase. And lastly, this is a little bit of a gray area. Also in terms of technology, I think there needs to be some amount of awareness that the average Joe needs to get. There's difference between a resale value for a diesel car and a petrol car. Similarly, I think we're going to start talking about resale values of cars using LFP and NCA. I think that will also really, really change how we look at resale value of cars and salvage value of cars, and that will really change how people adopt vehicles as well.
Right, absolutely. That's a whole other topic, actually, the resale value of electric vehicles, because we're going to head into that area and soon know, what's it going to look like. To conclude with you, sir, Srinivasan. So
no, I'm going to give a very different outlook on why we need to focus and we need to stay focused and put all our eggs in one basket. There are two very important forces that are affecting India, especially the developed part of India, South India and West India, for example, and some other parts of India. We have tremendous number of youth who are very aspirational. More than 50% of the people are getting into undergraduate education, and they're coming out with engineering degrees looking for jobs. We don't have jobs for them. And if we don't address this, we're going to have riots on the roads. There's only so much you can do by distracting them. Second, when globalization is coming to a closure, right, people think, because people are all fighting for tariffs and things. If you go back and look at history, when developed nations start talking about tariffs, they pry open the developing nations and the poor nations for their goods. They have the power. So today, Tesla is coming in. BYD is coming in. Whether you like it or not, you have to be world-class with your products. Otherwise, you're dead. East India Company will happen again all over. Because the powerful have decided they're not going to play nice anymore. So there's only one choice for us. We have to put all our eggs in one basket, or maybe two baskets at the most, and do very well globally. Personally, I believe that's electric vehicles, not anything else, not hydrogen or anything else. That's just me. But whatever it is, let's put our focus and become world-class. And for that, the government has to invest. It's government's responsibility and every one of us' responsibility. And gentlemen, you said it right. We need to work together. Because our future, either India makes it or India is broken. Let's make it happen.
Thank you
I'll
so much.
just add one thing. Actually, it's very rightly said. You really have to become global, but then I feel like things are happening. Mr. Srinivasan, I'll tell you why. I worked in Mahindra & Mahindra for more than 30 years. Today, with electric vehicles, we have the chance of becoming global because there is no emission challenge per se, where you have to really go and then meet with CARB, California Air Resources Board, or so-called EPA, Environment Protection Agency, these norms of US, that challenge is not there. Same way, the safety and crash challenges, those which were there, they have come down, the challenges have come down because Indian vehicles have also stepped up their safety. So these were the two major bottlenecks in the past to not allowing us to go to US or West. But today, these challenges not being there, the vehicles, for example, that are launched, either Mahindra or even the way the vehicles are coming from Tata, they are ready to go to global. Once you make the right-hand drive to left-hand drive, and you just change the drive side, that's it. And make it, as you rightly said, we really have to make them very reliable, very durable, absolutely robust. Then there is no doubt there is a way to go global, and we will become global is what, at least with my experience, I'm able to foresee and see that thing.
Right.
I'm sorry,
Right.
excited to add one more point to what he said. And we had two good successful stories. One is ISRO and one is all airports. I think these are world class. So we have a very good success stories to follow.
Right, absolutely. So here's concluding on that note, very positive note with taking on the world with EVs. Thank you so much, gentlemen, for being part of this panel and sharing your insights. Thank you all of you as well. And with that, we come to a close.